Okay, welcome to my UK Global Talent Visa Inspirational webinar, where I will interview a special guest who was one of my clients and received the UK Global Talent Visa back. Gosh, I can't even remember when, but she did receive her visa, and she will tell you all about it soon. So here, it's just some of the contents of what I'll be sharing. What is the Global Talent Visa? I'll give you a summary, the stage one endorsement application and process. And then I will invite Vasundhara on and I will interview her. And then you will have your chance to ask your questions about how she received her UK Global Talent Visa and the endorsement. So just a little bit about myself. My name is Michelle Hua. I am Vietnamese by background and I hold three citizenships. I hold an Australian, British through the Global Talent Visa, and I hold an Irish citizenship as well. But going back, I am a Global Talent Visa coach, and how I became a coach, well, in 2016, that was 9 years ago, I received my endorsement for exceptional talent. And then I went on to become the Tech Nation Visa Ambassador for a few years because back then the visa was very new and no one knew anything about it. So they asked me to become an ambassador to help and share my story about how I became a recipient. And I helped so many people with their applications and just to share my story because back then, as you can imagine, no one knew anything about it. I was one of the top 50 that received the endorsement. Back then, it was called the Exceptional Talent Visa, and now they're calling it the Global Talent Visa. So after I received my endorsement, I waited 3 years before I could apply for my indefinite leave to remain. And then shortly after, I received my citizenship. So it is a route to settlement. And this is the great thing about this, the Global Talent Visa. Previous to my Global Talent Visa, I was on a number of different visas. The previous one was the Entrepreneur's Visa. And that gave me three and a bit years to stay in the UK because I had a wearable tech startup that I was starting. I was an entrepreneur, and I couldn't renew that visa, and that visa didn't give me a route to settlement. So it was perfect timing. That visa was expiring, and I had no other choice but to go for the global talent. That was the only option for me. Otherwise, I'd have to go back to my country in Australia. So I'd spent 7 years in the UK. I based myself in the north of England, in Manchester and Newcastle, and London was my second home. So I traveled to London a lot when I was when I was building my startup. And I used to be an Australian solicitor back in Perth, and then got bitten by the entrepreneurship bug, just out of wanting to develop some wearable tech heated gloves. I won a hackathon and it just grew from there and got so much support from the Manchester tech community. And then when I moved to Newcastle and London, so it just snowballed from there. And I just had such a great time because I was immersed in all three tech ecosystems. I was quite well known in the wearable tech industry and trying to build my personal brand and my knowledge and expertise and went to loads of conferences. Another thing I did was I co-founded a Women of Wearables tech community, and I started it with another woman who worked in wearable tech. She was a co-founder of a smart umbrella. And together we were able to develop this amazing community of women who are working wearable tech and IoT. And it's still running. I exited the community group because I was so busy with my startup and doing other things. So she's still running it, and it's called Women of Wearables, and it's amazing. She's moved it into a more femtech type community. And you can have a look at it there. And I'm so proud of it because it's still running and having so much value and impact. And the reason I'm telling you this is these are the things that I put in my application to showcase my value to the tech community and to the tech sector. So I wrote a blog about my journey, and that's what started me into helping a lot of people and becoming a coach. And I coached over 1,000 tech entrepreneurs, senior exec, and tech employees. My success rate is 90%, and some of my clients received a successful result, which, the best ones, obviously, between 27 hours. But obviously, the decision can take up to 8 weeks. Average time is about 4 weeks. But the great thing is it can take as quick as 3 to 27 hours. But yeah, that's unheard of, but it does happen. My clients are varied, and this is why I love doing what I do. I have clients from all over, big tech companies to smaller startups to game designers to product marketers, managers, data scientists, solutions, architects, software engineers. So I do a mix of technical people, applicants, and business applicants. Okay. Just a disclaimer, I'm not a solicitor, an immigration solicitor. I only help with stage 1 endorsements, and I'm not affiliated with the Home Office or Tech Nation, other than I am a recipient, so I'm part of the Tech Nation alumni community. So these are some of the things that, as I was building my startup, I was featured in loads of different articles and magazines. I was Googleable. This is something that is very important when you are applying or thinking of applying, and seeing what your public-facing profile is. And I was doing all this anyway. I didn't do it because I knew about the Global Talent Visa, because at that point it wasn't around. So I was doing this anyway while I was building my startup. So I really immersed myself in the tech community and was able to, write articles and be interviewed, host dinners, be interviewed by the Sunday Times, which was amazing. It was a fantastic journey. I was a judge at a wearable tech hackathon. So yeah, I was interviewed in all these great tech magazines. So it all started with my blog, and you can have a read of it in my on my website at michellehewer.co.uk. And this is something I did only just recently, as recently as last year, after doing and coaching clients and applicants for so long. I'd never actually met them, and all my clients I coach over Zoom. So it was amazing. Last year in October, I went to London and saw a lot of my clients who have received their global talent visas, and it was just a really nice evening. It's my alumni. There is a bigger alumni group, but I wanted to celebrate with all my clients, or some of the select few that I asked to come, and we had a really great evening. So hopefully if you do apply for the endorsement through my help, you can join my alumni, and I have another one coming up next in a couple of months' time. So it is really nice to meet everyone and to celebrate with each other, because this journey is a very challenging one, and no one knows what you go through unless you've been through it yourself. And because I've been through it, I remember when I've got my visa or endorsement, I had no one to share it with. So now this is something I find really nice to do with my clients, because I know what it's like when you're going through this process alone and you don't know anyone who's going through it. And this is something that we do together to share and celebrate this magnificent milestone. So these are just some of my clients who have agreed to come on my webinar to share their story. Not everyone does want to share their story, and that's absolutely fine. I need to respect their privacy, but the ones that do, it is important to share your story and to inspire others as well. Because when I applied, I knew no one who got the visa. So it is really nice that my clients do come on to share their story, and they're from all over. It's such a diverse group of people, and it's amazing to see. So just quickly, 2 years ago, Tech Nation did announce their closure, but Founders Forum bought them out or acquired them. Now, what's happening in May is there will be a new endorsing body that will take over a 3-year contract to continue to assess the endorsement applications. Tech Nation might be continuing on, but it's just the new contract for an endorsing body. So Tech Nation may be the endorsing body, but it could be a new one. So we don't know. The guidelines are there. It will continue on. It's just who would be the endorsing body will know in May. So just in summary, what is the Global Talent Visa? It is formerly the Exceptional Talent Visa. It's a special visa that was introduced to allow highly skilled tech entrepreneurs and talent who work in the digital tech sector to apply for the right to live and work in the UK for up to 5 years. It's a 2-stage process. The first stage is you must be endorsed by Tech Nation by meeting the strict criteria, and I'll go through that in a second, before you can apply for the visa. So you can't apply for the visa unless you've been endorsed. When you look at the guidelines and the criteria, it it is more than just a job application. They do require you to explain the things that you've done in your day-to-day jobs, but it also requires you to do more than that. And that's why I talked about the things that I did for the tech community and the tech sector. They want you to be a leader in your field, not only within your company, but also in the industry as well. Hashtag TechNation Visa is something that you might see. This is something that was quite prominent when I was applying. I know it was 9 years ago, but the Global Talent Visa is an umbrella visa for lots of different sectors. TechNation is one of the endorsing bodies at the moment, and they only endorse for digital tech applicants. But there are other endorsing bodies under the Global Talent Visa umbrella, such as fashion, architecture, science, engineering, and I can't remember the others, but there are a number of them of which it falls under the Global Talent Visa as well. They have their own endorsing bodies, and then once they're endorsed, they get the visas. Or research is the other one, so academic researchers. So where I'm only going to talk about the Global Talent Visa in digital tech, where TechNation is the endorsing body. So the benefits of the Global Talent Visa, it gives you the freedom and flexibility to live and work in the UK for up to 5 years under this visa. You can apply for indefinite leave to remain and British citizenship, and you can switch from a number of different visas. The switch really depends on what visa you are on, because and it depends on your time spent in the UK. So if you've got a skilled worker visa and you want to switch to the global talent, your time in the UK counts. When I was under the entrepreneur's visa, my time in the UK counts as well. But then it depends on what visa you're currently on. If you have one, it may not count towards the global talent visa. So I know that the skilled worker visa definitely does if you're on it. You can also bring your dependents with you, so your family, your spouse, your child, and you can register a UK limited company under the Global Talent Visa. And why this is important is because I help some students who are on a student visa, and under their visa rules, they can't register a UK limited company, and they can't work for a company for more than 20 hours or something. So that's why it's important that if they want to be a founder of their own startup, they can register a UK limited company under the Global Talent Visa. For those who work in the tech sector, you can work for a tech company without the need for a company sponsorship. So for example, those on a skilled worker visa, I help with lots of people who switch from that because, either they are scared of being made redundant or they want to get to the ILR quicker. And I'll go through that in a second, depending on what category you're applying for under the Global Talent. The great thing is it's also attached to you, so you don't have to worry about, being sponsored or anything. So for me, when I got the Global Talent, I was a founder of my startup, but then I needed a break from that. And I worked for an accelerator, and then I worked for a university. And it didn't matter because that my visa was attached to me. They said, have you got your own visa? Yes, fine. They just employed me. They didn't have to, I didn't have to apply for a certificate of sponsorship or anything. So it was so easy just to chop and change. And I did so many great things under the Global Talent. Gave me so much freedom and flexibility. When my startup wasn't making any money and I just needed a break, I got contract work through a university and then worked for an accelerator, which was great because that was only a 3-month thing. And it was really nice to do that. And it's also cost effective, the application for stage 1 endorsement. It's in the hundreds, it's not in the thousands. It's only until you get the endorsement and you apply for the visas when it costs a bit more, but you know that you've got the endorsement, so you definitely get the visa, hopefully, once they do all your checks. Just a few stats here. There's loads of people from different countries, which is why I love helping everyone from Europe, Africa, India, North America, China, Australia. There's loads of people from different countries. There is a 54% endorsement rate, so 1 in 2 apply, but more recently I've seen a lot more rejections, so I think it has gone down, but these are the official stats. But I feel like in the last sort of year since Founders Forum have taken over, the guidelines the assessors have been a bit more strict, and now with the new updated guidelines, it's a lot stricter as well. So there's been over 5,000 successful recipients over the years, over 9 years. I know it doesn't sound a lot, but when I applied, and only up until about 3 years ago, they had a cap on endorsements. I think it was, at the time, I feel like it was about I think 1,000 maybe, or not even. No, it was only 200. Actually, yes, it was 200 capped per year for those who applied. So we had to not only worry about getting endorsed, but did we fall under that cap that TechNation was able to endorse people under? So now there is no cap. Anyone who applies and meet the criteria can potentially be endorsed. So hopefully the numbers will increase. There's a 68-32% talent and promise candidates, and there's a 75-25 male-female ratio. And that's, tech is a male-dominated industry, so I'm not surprised with those stats. And then once you are endorsed and you get your Global Talent Visa, you'll automatically join my alumni, but then you can join the bigger TechNation Visa alumni group as well, and they're based in London. And I encourage anyone who have received the visa to join the alumni. The more people in your network, the better, so you can help each other. So this is a visa report. So these are certain countries that have received endorsements, and these are just stats. Don't get put off by them, but that's what they're seeing. Those from more Western countries obviously have higher endorsement rate, but China is just there's a lot. The only reason why I feel like China has got a higher endorsement rate is because when I saw the numbers, it was like there were 5 applicants from China at that year, but 3, and maybe 3 or 4 got endorsed. So of course that number is high because they looked at the numbers, and that's why. But generally it's about a 54% endorsement rate. So you can see people from those countries have a lower endorsement rate than these. And then those people with certain skills are more likely to be endorsed. Obviously, software engineers, because it's tech skills that they're looking for. But it doesn't mean to say those with business skills aren't, because business development goes straight right behind software engineers. But that's what we're seeing. Those are getting endorsed. And then down here, apps and software development, fintech, AI, machine learning, you can see those types of people in those sectors are getting endorsed. And then 1 in 3 have software engineering skills, and 1 in 4 are founders. I do get a lot of questions about, do I have to be a founder to get to apply for this visa? No, you can be an employee or founder. You can be a business or technical person. So it's quite open, so long as you're working in the tech industry. And these are just some of the stats over the years as well. So when I applied back in 2016, there's no real stats there, but you can see over the years with more people, more ambassadors, more people getting it, more people telling their stories, you can see that this is a very good visa. People are interested, and you can see these are applications. This was a very busy time when TechNation announced their closure. It was very busy. Also around COVID time as well, it shot up as well. So it's still getting higher and higher. So people are interested in this visa. The competition is higher than when I applied back in 2016. So just quickly, these are the documents you need. You need 15 documents, of which you need your CV, personal statement, and 3 letters of recommendations by experts. So that's 5 documents. And then the rest of the 10 documents are made up from choosing some criteria. There's mandatory criteria and there's optional criteria. And there is a 3-page limit for all your documents. So you need to have, at the end of it, about a 45-page application to submit to TechNation. So there are 2 categories in which you can apply. There's talent and promise. Now, those who apply under talent have more than 5 years experience. They're later in their career, and they can prove leadership through their skills and achievements. And these are people who are more senior in their roles. Now, those who go for promise less than 5 years experience, they're earlier in their career, and they show potential to be a leader through their skills and achievements. And these are students, graduates, and juniors. And this does matter, because if you go for talent and you get talent, your route to settlement is a lot quicker. So within 3 years, you can apply for indefinite leave to remain. Whereas if you go for promise, it's within 5 years you can apply for your indefinite leave to remain. So just quickly, those with technical and business skills can apply. So you can see there's a list here. It's not an exhaustive list. So you just need to look at which applies to you, and look at the closest, and then try to pick the one. So basically, this is obviously developing a product. And then this is about growing and selling the product or the company. Okay. Now, what is not considered eligible? are those who work for consultancies or outsourcers. So those who have clients as opposed to customers. And I get a lot of people asking those who work for consultancy companies like Capgemini, Wipro, JP, and banks, especially. Banks aren't typically, those who work for banks aren't typically eligible because they're traditional banks, but banks like fintechs, like Revolut, Monzo, those types of digital banks, they would be eligible. And you can be an employee or founder as well. So the definition, they're really looking for people who work for product-led digital technology companies who build their own products. And this is something that wasn't clear when I applied, and it was only just provided in the last few years about what a product-led digital technology company is. And it's a business that provides a proprietary digital technical service product platform hardware as their primary revenue source. So, the consultancies out because they don't develop their own products. So if you work for or you're a founder of a digital tech company that develops its own products for customers and you can license it, sell by subscription, then it would be considered a product-led, and no consultancies or outsourcers. And the main thing about your application is explain that, if you do work for a company that is product-led, just explain that it is, and give it a bit of a context and background. Don't assume that the assessor knows that it's a product-led company. Don't try not to let the assessor assume anything. You need to tell the assessor everything, okay? Because they're from the UK, and if you're from your own countries, that you can't expect them to know every single company that is out there that's product-led. So you need to explain it to them. So these are the criteria. You need to select whether you're a promise or talent candidate. And then the mandatory criteria is the leadership criteria or potential leadership. And you would probably select or choose here. There's 4 options and you select 2 out of the 4. And you would probably put 3 documents or examples per criteria. So that would bring it up to 9 documents, and then the 10th document would be something that you've already chosen. So for example, if you choose the leadership criteria, have minimum 3 documents against this criteria. Okay, don't do less than 3 because you want a balanced application. Under the optional criteria, you select 2 out of 4. And you put 3 against each of those criteria. So for innovation, you need to prove that what you're doing is innovative and what product you're building or selling or growing is innovative. The second one is volunteer work that advances the tech sector. So lots of volunteer stuff. So I used, organizing and co-founding my Women of Wearables group because it's volunteer work that was outside of my day-to-day job that advanced the tech sector. So it really did improve the tech sector by, giving visibility to women who were building their own wearable tech products. The third criteria is about your commercial, technical, entrepreneurial impact to the field as an employee of a product-led digital technology company. And this is metrics. They really want to quantify your metrics. So any commercial impact that you made or any product launches that you were involved with by developing the products, this is what they want. And they want 3 examples of that. And then 4th is academic contributions. Not many people choose this, but if you do, they want letters from professors. I chose this one because I was working with the university to develop my product. Letters from professors, publications that you've written, that would help you fulfill this criteria. Okay, so you have to select mandatory. You select 2 out of 4, and then you need to have at least 3 documents per criteria. And then for the 10th document, just pick the one that you're strongest in. So maybe 4 under leadership, 3 under innovation, and 3 under impact. So that makes up to 10. And then the process, you've got 2 stages. And within the first stage is the endorsement stage. And then within the endorsement stage, there's 2 steps. The first step is you pay and register online at the Home Office. And then you've got 30 working days. Once you've paid at the Home Office, and the payment is £524, and that is non-refundable. Once you pay, you've got 30 working days to then upload your documents onto the TechNation portal. So that's a separate link, and that's where you upload your 45 pages onto the TechNation portal, and that's when you submit. When I applied, I had to print everything out and send my pack to Sheffield, and hopefully they would be able to open it and read it, as opposed to it being digital now. So once you send it to TechNation, they have up to 8 weeks. And as I said, average is about 3 to 4 weeks. Obviously, the quicker they come back to you with a decision, the better. But that's usually 3 to 4 weeks on average. And then they tell you whether or not you're successful or unsuccessful. If you are successful, you go straight to stage 2. You apply. This is a Home Office visa application now. And then you pay £192. Your biometrics, you have to go and get your fingerprints taken. And then this IHS is the Immigration Health Surcharge. This has gone up quite a bit over the years. When I applied, it was $200 per year. And in 9 years, it's gone up to $1,035 per year. So that's where the big cost is now, and that takes about 3 to 8 weeks. When I applied, though, my stage 2 came very quickly. Once I went and got my biometrics, I got it within like a week, and they sent me my visa and passport back. So it can take this long, but it depends if you apply within the UK or if you apply from your own country. I know some clients who applied from their own country and it took a lot longer. So just be mindful of that. If you are unsuccessful, the great thing is you can appeal the decision at no cost. You can't really appeal the decision if you don't like the decision, which is usually a no, but you can appeal if you feel that the assessor has made a mistake in assessing your application. And I help with appeals. There is no fee, but there is a deadline. You've got 28 calendar days in which to respond to the appeal, and they have 28 days. It goes to a new assessor, and they assess your application, the first assessor's feedback, and then your appeal, and then they will make a decision. And they will either overturn the result, which is great. I've had that sometimes, and it's a great feeling when the second assessor says, okay, we agree the first assessor was wrong and you are successful. Then you go for stage 2. If you are unsuccessful, you can resubmit depending on what the feedback is. So I help people with the appeal and resubmission as well. And it's fine. Sometimes you do get feedback and, maybe the assessor didn't make a mistake. Maybe you didn't add in enough information, and you use that feedback to make your second application better. And when I help people with their second application, they can tell the difference between the first and second. So it is worth potentially resubmitting. I help with these questions that people have. Are they eligible? How do I present my documents? What is relevant information? Who can be my experts? How do I show my innovations? How do I show my impact? How do I show that I'm an exceptional leader? How much experience do I need? And I've received an unsuccessful result. What should I do? Should I appeal? As I said, I've done this many times for clients, and I've done it myself as well. So these are very common questions, and I can certainly help you with any of these if you have them. And I can tell you whether or not you have a good chance or the risk of you applying, because obviously the guidelines are there and that's an ideal applicant, but it's very black and white, the guidelines, but people are grey. Like, you have lots of different stories to tell. You've got different kinds of experience, and I help my clients with all that and try to fit the guidelines as best as possible and tell your story. So this is my website, and if you want my help in helping you determine whether or not you're eligible and the chances of your application being successful, have a look, and you can have a look at my eligibility questionnaire, and please fill that out as best you can, and that will help me determine whether or not you're eligible, and then we'll go and have a free 15-minute discovery call so we can talk about whether or not you meet the criteria. Being eligible is one thing, meeting the criteria is a whole nother thing, and that requires a bit more time to discuss. And my top tips, wearing my recipient hat and my coach hat, is this is your chance to tell your unique story. Everyone has a story to tell, and this process is about storytelling. Your documents will tell your story. Your tech network is your net worth. I can't stress this enough, because you need people to vouch for you, to confirm the work that you've done and how great you are and how much of a leader you are in the field, and how much they respect you and your work. So you need to have a good tech network. This process is about self-promotion as well. If you can't convince the assessor of the great work that you've done, then they won't know how great you are, because you are doing this application. Yes, your network is helping you, but you need to articulate everything. according to the guidelines and make sure that you big yourself up because you've done some amazing things. As I said, being eligible is one thing. Meeting the criteria requires a strategy in putting together all 15 documents. Every document, 15 pieces of evidence, tells a story. And that's what I'm here to do to help you. And you please contact me sooner rather than later if you need support. I can check your application review or have a strategy session with you. I have a lot of people who submit and they come back to me once they've submitted and obviously they didn't get it. And I'd wish they'd seen their application before submitting, because once you submit, the assessor reads it. If you just, if I'm able to give you some tips, at least it'll give you a higher chance of being endorsed. And the bonus tip, a lot of people miss this, is that assessors don't click on links. You're only limited to 3 pages in your evidence per document. And it's not a lot. I mean, when I applied, it was 2 pages, and now they've increased it to 3 pages. And people get a bit cheeky and just put links in and hoping that the assessor will click on the links. If it's important, take a screenshot and source the link. That's my best advice, because I do receive feedback to say we don't click on links, so we don't know what's in your documents other than what you've shown us. We don't go beyond that. So please don't include links unless you sourced the piece of evidence and take a screenshot. Okay. As I said, I have an educational webinar in 2 weeks' time to talk more about the guidelines. I didn't talk too much about it, but here, because I don't have time, but I will go into more detail about it. So please do sign up. When you get my email tomorrow, I will send you out an email and I will talk about the new changes as well. So I have a lot of content on my YouTube channel, on my website, and if you want to ask me any questions, please do email me. I'm here to support anyone who is looking at this amazing visa and opportunity to live and work in the UK. So I have spoken a lot. I'm so sorry. Now I would like to introduce my special VIP guest, Vasundhara Dehiya, who has kindly agreed to come on today. Hi, Vasundhara. How
Hello,
are you?
everyone. Hi.
It's really nice to see you again. So I just want to stop sharing my screen and you can see us. It's really nice to see you, and thank you so much for coming on board. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm so happy to see you. I know that it just seems so long ago, but it just seems like yesterday at the same time. And I'd love for you to introduce yourself and tell people about you, and yeah, and we'll get started on the interview.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Vasundhara. Currently, I'm a senior machine learning engineer with LinkedIn. I have a background as with a master's in computer science and a lot of international experience in AI, focused more on machine learning, NLP sort of domains. What I do now is like I've done multilingual, multimodal content models, Gen AI model solutions at LinkedIn, which has led to like significant enhancements in user engagements. Previously, I've also worked in the ESG space, so I've pioneered AI-driven ESG models, which has led to some industry awards, and I'm also a co-inventor of 2 patents in the ESG space, and they're all approved and granted in 3 countries each. Beyond my job, I'm also an advocate for gender diversity. I've led Women in Tech initiatives, also been nominated for a Women in Tech Excellence Award last year. Right. And beyond in the academic domain, I'm also an author and peer reviewer for PLOS ONE. It's one of the journals. And
You know
last but
what?
not least, like last year, I was recognized as exceptional global talent in AI by for this visa and got this visa.
That is so impressive. But when I first met you, you
Yeah.
didn't explain yourself as that.
Oh,
Really?
no way, not at all. No, this is a collection of efforts from our journey together.
That's amazing. I get goosebumps like when I hear that, because you you're confident, you know who you are, obviously, but to say that just makes me so proud, because you were so shy about what you did. And I was like, you did it. Everything you did was so inspiring. And it was just, I'm amazed. Like, because I've worked in the tech sector and, I can see a lot of women as well in the tech sector as software engineers, and they don't say how great they are or just what they do. And it's not bragging, it's saying what you've done.
Yeah, like previously I might have introduced myself as, oh, I'm an engineer at LinkedIn, and that might have been it. and not talked about all this other stuff that I have actually done, but I wouldn't probably highlight it.
Yeah, it's really nice. I'm so pleased. Thank you so much for sharing, who you are and what you do, what you've done. So let's talk about why did you apply for the Global Talent Visa and where were you living at the time and what interested you in the Global Talent Visa?
Yeah, so I'd been living in different countries for a bit, right? I'm Indian, and then I've moved to South Korea for a bit, and then I moved to Ireland for a bit. And my partner was based in the UK, so there was a plan that eventually I'm going to settle into UK. And while discussing all the visa options, so we decided like, okay, how do we get here? What's the best option? So I did come on a dependent visa here first, and then later decided it's better for me to be switching to a global talent, assuming I'm eligible. So we didn't have too much information initially when we started this process, and then found Michelle and went from there.
And when did you start like looking at it? Because a lot of people find it straight away, or they've looked at it for a number of years. I stumbled across it with 6 months left on my entrepreneur's visa. So, what was your timing in terms of the
So
visa?
thankfully, I did have like a time restriction. I was not racing against the clock. And you mentioned, right, like about 2 years ago, there was a plan that Technation might be shutting down. That's actually when I like very first looked at it, and I thought I might
Mm.
apply, and I was still in Ireland at that time. And I saw that news, and I was like, oh no, I think I've missed the boat. It's too late, so I have to come on dependent visa, and which is what I did. And later found out, oh, our program is still active. It's like perfect. Let's switch and while there's still time. I had a long dependent visa still remaining, but meanwhile worked through transferring through this visa.
Yeah, okay. And so, gosh, that was 2 years ago. I remember that time. So what challenges and hesitations did you have before, like once you got to the UK and then you thought, okay, well, maybe I can apply for the Global Talent Visa, but were you still a bit hesitant?
Oh
Um,
yeah, it was overwhelming, right? Like so other options, dependent visa, very straightforward, right? Skilled worker visa, perfect. Employer does everything for you. Those are the sort of visas I'd done in the past. Whereas global talent was like, oh, you have to prove yourself to be an exceptional leader. There's all these guidelines and technical things that you need to care about and keep working your day job and other routines that you have. So it's a bit overwhelming. And like, for example, I didn't know where to start, what to qualify, sort of things went into it. I didn't know anyone who'd done it, who could have guided me. So things like that was all the challenges and hesitations I had around it.
yeah.
Uh,
And
yeah.
how did you overcome them? Because I just had to do it. I didn't have time because I was racing against the clock. But did you go through a period of, okay, I've got to get over this. If I want this visa, how am I going to overcome the challenges that I have?
Yeah, so someone mentioned that their friend had gotten it and had gotten your help. And then I found someone else. So a couple of people, like when I searched for it, and then I found people who recommended and had gone through the visa. They'd also known you and gone through it with you. So they gave me very positive recommendations. My husband did a lot of research and into the process that comforted me a little bit that there's a chance you qualify. Let's not like worry about that too much. Let's give it a shot. Try the whole process. And then when I spoke with you, then you did the assessment, uncovered a lot of these details, and we figured out that there's a good match here, and that's for the eligibility. And then you did all the actually working with you is how I really got over the all the hesitations and
Oh,
concerns because even when you would have said you're eligible, I wouldn't have known what to write in it and how to structure the whole process.
oh, that's really nice. And I'm so pleased because it is overwhelming. There's so much to unpack in the last sort of 5 to 7 years of your career. And then you've done stuff, but it's like, does it count? And for me, what I tend to do is tell me everything. Tell me everything, and then we can try and fit it in however which way we can. And if it relates to tech, of course it counts. And that's yeah, it's trying to unpack everything and then trying to figure out the specific details to put in your application. So I'm really pleased. It does help to talk to lots of people who have received it as well. It gives you a bit of motivation and a bit of hope as well. And I'm really pleased. And that's why I think sharing stories is so important. It really is. So let's go into deciding who your experts were when we discussed your application. And then who did we choose in the end?
Yes, I think finding experts is one of the tricky bits here, right? You need to find, as I understood, like people who might have known you or worked with you in a professional capacity. So in my case, they were senior leaders at my workplace. They were director, VP titles, some people from my old workplace. So those are the sorts of people I reached out to and who happily obliged as and became my experts.
Yeah, that's very good. There's just I just wanted to mention there's a little bit of a change in the guidelines now, and luckily the guidelines were senior members of your organization, but the new guidelines are senior leaders in the industry. So there's a difference, but luckily your experts were senior leaders in the industry. They were also senior members of their organization. So just because you have, a senior title in your company, this is the experts, it doesn't make them a senior industry expert. So it's good idea to Google your experts to see if they do more than what they do in their current company. And luckily your experts did. We wanted to make sure that they were not only just senior members, but they were senior leaders as well. And that was because also the assessors have, wanted more from the experts because they don't, the assessors don't just assess you, they assess your experts as well, making sure that they are experts in the field. So let's talk about the criteria. What criteria did we select? Because we know that there's the mandatory and then there's the four optional criteria.
Yes, so I had mandatory categories, so where I put things like, let me pull it up a little bit, what kind of things I put up. I had some awards that I'd won, the book I've written, the where I was an author, I peer reviewed for the journal. I had my own journal publication. I had my leadership evidence, which was Women in Tech, a piece of bits. All right, so that's sort of the mandatory part of the bit criteria. And then I had my patents. So that actually was a substantial part of my application. So I had two patents separately filed in three different countries each. And so like a total of six granted patents. And then I had like the high impact projects. So things I've done at my projects I worked on, which have led to like, which have been mentioned publicly. There's been recognition about how impactful they were. They've changed how things work in the company, both present and previous. Those are the sorts of things I put into my evidence.
That's amazing. I mean, it took us a while to get there. When you say it, it sounds like, oh yeah, this is what we did, but it was an evolving process, wasn't it? We had to find some good examples from all the places that you've worked and then find the evidence. That was the hardest thing. But yeah, just hearing you say that was like, yeah, so easy. Why did it take so
No,
long?
it was so hard, so difficult. So it was
It
more
was.
finding the pieces of work that you and I found were more impactful or interesting, but it was also like what would be more relevant and how do you document this whole process? So some bits were like, oh, I worked on this super cool thing, but I can't put it there because, oh, that might be confidential, or there's no one who's going to attest to it, or you can't find like public evidence that it was actually impactful after I finished the work on it. So things like that were like details to consider. And so for the package, it needs to be like the whole comprehensive thing, which the ones I said were like the patent was very clearly
Yeah.
something that we could show and
Yeah.
showcase.
Yeah, we start with patents. That's easy because it's published, it's granted, it's there. But all the other stuff, it's looking at the products and the launches and you won your company won awards for them and things like that. Translations was an issue for you because you worked in Korea. So
Yeah.
yeah, so what did we do around the translations? Because this
Yeah,
is
we
something that I help.
translated it and we proved some of our bits. Like this is where we translated the evidence from because some of the books were in Korean, some articles from my previous company were in Korean. So
Yeah.
how do you put that in, right?
Yeah.
Bit of a
Well,
challenge from international experience.
yeah, that's the thing. And interestingly, when you applied, the translations, the English and the non-English versions had to be within the 3 pages, right?
Yeah,
But you'll be happy to know that now the translations are in addition to the three
really.
pages. Yes, we don't have to squeeze everything in anymore.
Oh, that's
So
good. Been helpful.
that's Yeah, sometimes the changes can be too strict, but this one was a good one. I read it and I went, oh, thank goodness. It's squeezing everything in when you have translated documents. It's too hard. So I'm glad they made that change. But look, we worked around it for you and tried the best we could. So that's really good. Your application now, looking back, do you feel like it was a strong one at the end of it afterwards?
At the end of it all, and now it's been a few months since I've had it, and like everything's gone well. So confidence is at a high now. So now it feels like, oh yes, this is fantastic. Who is this amazing person that I'm talking about, and who has this great professional experience, who's a global talent? But that's not how I felt at the start of this whole process. And
Yeah,
there's a
yeah.
lot of imposter syndrome in there, a lot of hesitations, doubt. Well, it's global talent, right? You're supposed to be one of the best and brightest in the whole world. So is that me really? That sort of human feelings were there. So I think speaking with Michelle here and was like a great process for all of it. Even during this process, I would very often be like, oh, I don't want to do this. Oh, this is too hard. Why am I doing this? I'm gonna get rejected. I don't know. So all those feelings were in there. So I think not only did we come out of this as like a bit of like getting the visa and the whole transformation of for me it was a bit of also like career coaching or introspection into my whole professional journey that oh this is what I've accomplished and that is meaningful and these are some of the things I'm strong at and I've done in the past. So like recognition of those, acceptance of those, talking about them actually, it's brand new for me.
You're so good at it now. You really are. Yeah, as I said, I'm getting goosebumps again because I see the transformation before my eyes. You don't see it. I hope you felt it a little bit now that I guess reflecting now you can feel it and see it, but I see it as it's happening in real time and it really is nice. And this is why I love doing it. It's not just about the visa. It's about helping you come out of your shell and looking at your past achievements in your career and talking about your future. What would your future look like now that, you can be settled in the UK and all those things? And that's exciting. It's almost like visioning and doing like what does my future self look like? And you can do that now that, you've looked at your past. I don't think you can look at your future until you've kind of just, looked at your past achievements, write it down and be confident knowing that, yeah, this is what I've done. It's amazing. And you are amazing. I knew that from the beginning. I'm glad you can see it now. Okay, let's look at the timing. So when did you submit your application and when did you receive the results? So this is talking about the endorsement and the stage two visa. There's a stage one and stage two. So the endorsement, when did you
So
submit?
I formally submitted it. So the whole part of us preparing for this application and all the procrastinations and hesitations that I went through, that was the longest part of this whole process.
Yeah.
It's the very first time I actually pinged Michelle and we had a discovery call was October 2023, right? That's like almost 2 years now.
No,
And
it's
then
not. We're only in March. Yeah, I know what you
one and
mean.
a half year
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Feels long, feels like a
Yeah.
while ago.
Yeah.
And our first session was November 23 and actually submitted for the endorsement in June 2024. So took a good 7 months or so in the whole sessions. And from the discovery call was like even longer, 8 months or so, 8, 9 months there. Uh, so submitted it for June of 2024, which also happened because I gave birth on 12th of June, a week after that. So that's the timeline I was racing against. Okay, let me just get this out of the way before I go have my baby. And I went and did that and got my endorsement on 1st of July 2024. So,
So you
uh,
had your baby and
yes.
then you got endorsed. Like that's like two massive things that happened in your life in the span of what, 2 weeks?
Yeah, so that was an amazing month. Actually, that was also a part of how I decided, like, oh, I need to actually get this done, right? Because the baby is born, then he needs to be on a visa. And I would rather him be on my visa than on my husband's visa.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of the timing of it all. Otherwise, I might have postponed way more, who knows? I was
Yeah,
really struggling
well,
to get through the application at that point.
That's amazing. I can't believe it. Like as you said initially, oh yeah, I didn't have a deadline. You kind of did. No, I mean, guys, I think, oh God, Vasundhara, that's amazing. Like giving birth and being pregnant and knowing that you're giving birth towards the end, that would have been a lot of stress as well. Like physically, and you're tired and you don't want to do this, and you did it. And a week
Yeah.
later, after you submitted,
Yes, it was overwhelming, both like emotionally, physically, hormonally. It was all sorts of things.
yeah.
And I couldn't take the stress I was not supposed to, right? So just trying to be relaxed about it and still being like, oh, I have this application I need to get through.
So 2 weeks after giving birth, talk me through this, and you received the endorsement.
Yeah.
Were like, were you still in a bit of a daze, or you were like, oh my gosh, I've got it?
Yeah,
Did
it was
it come as a
felt very
shock?
amazing. Those 2 weeks, well, I was like
Yeah,
in baby mode and new mom
yeah.
mode, right? So I have no idea how that time went. But every day, every so often, it's like, oh, some of the fastest candidates got it in like 3 hours or something. And it's like, where's my result? It's been 2 weeks, it's been 3 weeks, where is it? And at a certain point, it was like, I have to wait maybe 8 weeks. Oh no. And then
Yeah.
one day, there it was. It felt great. And I was
Oh,
so
that's
relieved
amazing.
afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, because waiting is the hardest part. You feel like it's days and weeks, but really it's only been a day. But luckily you were busy with your baby, and then it came as a nice surprise for you. Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing. And so once you got endorsed, what was the timing of the stage 2 visa?
Yes, next part was relatively straightforward in terms of doing applying for the visa, etc. So 1st of July, I got the endorsement. 5th of July, I'd done the paperwork, done my biometrics, got a speedy appointment there. And 31st of July, so like 3 weeks plus, I got the
Mm.
visa, got an email for it. And a couple of days later, the e-visa and all of those details from UK Gov came through. So all done by August, first week of August.
So I'm looking at it, 4th of June submission,
Yeah.
say 2nd of August for e-visa, like
Yeah.
done. So June, July, August, 2 months.
2 months, yeah. End to end, all done. Yeah.
And we worked together since maybe I'd say first, so for 6 months. So 6 months of prep and
Yes.
2 months of decision done. Yeah.
Yes.
So
All right.
yeah, yeah. So it's all in the planning and the preparation. It really is to get the result, even though the result was quick, but it's all the planning and the preparation that we did that got the good result.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
amazing. Wow. Big year for you. Very big year.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that you've gone through this process, and luckily you only needed to go through it once, what's your advice to other applicants who are, looking at, this route and hearing your story now?
I think like few things to consider and so firstly like don't doubt yourself too much, if you're in doubt whether you qualify or not, but maybe not have the sort of imposter syndrome or think that maybe I need to do more before I apply, things like that, don't do that so much. And if in doubt, like talk to Michelle here, right? She'll help you uncover and unravel all of it. That, oh, whether this is meaningful, whether you need to do some more work, how your profile fits into the guidelines and the process. And she's pretty straightforward and honest. She wouldn't, I think in my case, at least that's what I thought. She didn't like tell me, oh, you can do it, but maybe like, I don't think so. That didn't happen, right? Very upfront about whether what works and what doesn't work. In terms of reflecting, need to do a lot of career reflection in terms of what you've done in the past, some things that you might skim over or take for granted, maybe don't. Just bring them out again, talk through them, talk about them. Uh, Take some time to, jot down your experiences, think about it, but maybe not as much as I did, just do it faster. My main reason being like things can change, guidelines change, other situations, visa deadlines might happen for you. A lot of people might have those deadlines that thankfully I didn't, but figure that out. What I also found some bit helpful was talking to other people who've known me professionally, some friends, career mentors, managers, and see what they feel about you, right? So it helps you see yourself from an external lens. What are some things they recommend to you about, like, oh, you're great at this, or this is a piece of work that you were fantastic in, or an initiative that you lead well. It kind of helps you understand yourself more. And Another one important thing is to do a bit more outside of your day job. I think that really helped with this whole, at least in my application. A lot of what I talked about and put in my application was something that was not required of me in my day job, but things I did anyway. So like women in tech, reviewing, authoring, even patents were extension of my job. It was not mandatory to me for me to file a patent, right? So things like that. Those would be some advice for people who are just starting this process or even considering doing so.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And you're right, it's not just about your day-to-day job. You had done so many things outside of your day-to-day job. I don't know how you had time to do all that, but you did. And that was the same for me. I wanted to do those things anyway, and it just so happened that the Global Talent Visa required it. Now, I do have a lot of people who don't have that and who are asking, and I have a question here. They said that you've had an incredible journey, and they don't have any public facing things. And this is something that the assessors are looking for. So, what's your advice? What do you think they should do to start?
Um, I think it's never too late, right? Like I'm not sure what kind of background you might have, but for example, if you're an engineer, software engineer, maybe you start creating a public GitHub profile, right? Or some sort of Google Google Scholar if you have publications, or some sort of blogs that you're writing, some sort of public presence and sort of showing yourself as a leader in the field, even or like a thought leader. You might write some articles about your field of expertise. Those are some things that come immediately to mind for this
Yeah,
question.
absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. And also, there's loads of meetups. When I was living and working in London and Newcastle and Manchester, I was going to so many tech meetups. There were developer meetups and, all sorts of meetups. So you go there not only as a participant, but sorry, as someone who just attends, but you need to be a participant as well. Either be an organizer or do something a bit more active in that community. Um, yes, you can have social media presence, but what the assessors are looking for is not just your own platforms that you're publishing on, like say LinkedIn, Medium, Substack, which are great to start with. And that's what I did. But once I published on those platforms, third-party platforms like, the magazines and things, they started contacting me to write on their platforms. So that's my suggestion to Sarafaz, who's asked that question, is start with your own because that's easiest, and then hopefully third-party platforms and publications and things can see what you've done, and they can sort of see, okay, is this appropriate for our readership, for our audience? And they may invite you. You can also take your own initiative and find these types of publications to write for as well. Don't wait, don't sit back and wait. You can take the initiative to do it. And obviously, the new guidelines now say that anything that supports the timing of your application won't be accepted. So some people, what they do is they know what the guidelines are. 3 months before they submit, they do all these things and they submit. That's not going to cut it. You're going to have to work on it over a consistent period of time, maybe, 6 to 12 months or longer. So this is a long-term goal here, but not only is it good for the visa, it's good for your own professional development as well. Like Vasundhara said, this process, and this is why I love doing this, is not just about the visa. It's about making you a better candidate for job interviews. Okay, because we are in a very competitive world here, not just for the visa, but for jobs as well. So you need to stand out from the rest. And I hope that helps. Sorry, now I have one question for you, Vasundhara. What does this mean? What does visa mean to you and your family, and what did you learn about yourself?
Oh, so much, right? So this visa is like a culmination of professional growth and recognition of the journey thus far. So that was very valuable. And in terms of the what after coming on this visa for myself and my family, it's a lot of freedom to pursue professional opportunities. And now I'm contacted by recruiters and get more opportunities. Things like that has been much, much nicer. I don't need like a visa for that. A lot of times anyone who's been on visas for work would recognize how tough it is to get someone to sponsor your visa, or is it to switch jobs if you're unhappy in one. So, free from all of that burden. In terms of like what I learned about myself, I think it was like a whole professional coaching or journey for me. There's a lot of reflecting, a lot of learning and unlearning about who I am as a professional, how I think about my own achievements, how I present myself. There's been a big change there. So I think there's been a lot of growth, which is why and how it makes sense, how to be an exceptional leader. So moving from like someone who's like, oh, I'm new in this field, I'm just learning, I'm a student, to someone who's like, oh, I'm a leader, I can lead by example, I can deliver on things. So that was the whole journey. And I think it's very valuable to me, this whole process that I did with Michelle, and also at the end, having this visa. It's extremely meaningful.
Oh, that is amazing. I did not think that you would say this at the beginning and during the process, but seeing you come out on the other side, it is really inspiring and just makes me feel happy. And I hope everyone can see that as well. And what are your exciting plans now that you've got the visa with you and your family and your job and whatever
Yeah, no, we're
plans?
enjoying our time in London. So the little one, a little with the little baby, enjoying a bit of my maternity leave, preparing to go back to work, figuring out how to make the most of the time I have in the country and most of the opportunities that are accessible to me. And I'm also like confident in this current tech ecosystem where things go up and down and positives and negatives, that I'm not worried about, how I'm settled in the country, not having to move around. So I think very happy and secure in knowing that for myself and my family.
Oh, that's amazing, Vasundhara. It's not just about yourself, it's about you and your family and the life that you're giving to them and in a new country. And it is really nice. It's being more settled and secure. I feel the same, like, as an immigrant, this visa thing is always hanging over your shoulders and you're always scared, or you always have to look at the next step. But your next step is ILR and citizenship if you want it. Like it's an easier ride, I would
Yeah.
say now. That's really amazing. And I want to know, if I know we don't have many people left, but if you can help me congratulate Vasundhara on her amazing story and journey, and thanking her for sharing her story before we get to some questions later on. But is there an emoji in your chat? Oh, look, we've got some emojis. Thank you. Thank you
Yes.
so much. Yeah, if you can keep pressing the emojis, we love seeing that because that's the only way we can engage with everyone. Thank you for your question. If you have any other questions, please do ask them. We've got, a few more minutes. I'm sorry, we're just a bit over time, but if you've got any questions, please do ask, or just congratulate Vasundhara because she deserves it. 6 months while being pregnant and trying to submit right before giving birth I think that's a massive achievement in itself. It didn't matter if you didn't get the visa, but it does matter. But the fact that you got it is the icing on the cake. But yeah, I hope. Is anyone got any questions? We're just gonna wait. Any other last things, Vasundhara? I don't know.
No, I just
You've been
wish
very
everyone
thorough.
luck in their process, and hope they find the right visa, and we meet again in the country after they've moved here. So I wish luck to
Yeah.
everyone.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. And I guess if there's no questions, we did have one question, but yeah, everyone's quiet today, which is fine. And I think we've given them loads of information to digest and think about. You can always come back to me and ask me any questions on my email, or go to my website and answer my eligibility questionnaire. So yeah, I'm just going to leave it now. If there's no questions, that's okay. Thank you so much, Vasundhara. Just enjoy the rest of your maternity leave, and I know we will catch up again soon, and I will hear all about your next steps or whatever it is that you're doing and how big your baby's growing. I guess, do you know what? Your baby is now when you look at him, you're going to know how, like, that's when you got your visa. So he's going to be a
Easy math
constant
there.
reminder. It's easy there, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
that's really nice. Yeah. I got my endorsement the day before my birthday. So
Oh,
that's my marker. So I'm pleased that there's a marker, but I guess everyone remembers when they get it. But you've got like a physical reminder every day in your son, and you've given him you're giving him a beautiful life in the UK. So, and a beautiful future there. That's
yeah.
amazing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
just before he goes to school, I need to get him his ILR. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Or
Get
he
him sorted.
play school, nursery, or some other landmark. That's the passport date, things like that. That's how it lines up.
That's amazing. And then you can tell him how hard it was for you to, get him it wasn't, I mean, yes, it was very hard. I think it was the journey that you went on to
Yeah.
get him his future, secured in the UK. And he's going to make the most of it with two such great parents who, did this for him. He's gonna be an amazing kid.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Well, I'll catch up with you soon. But thank you everyone for joining us, and I will email you tomorrow. Thanks, Vasundhara.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.